Hello everyone, this is a video about my favorite type of stool test. What a lovely topic for a video. Just before jumping into the video, if you don't mind taking a quick second to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. And as per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. And if you need medical advice, please ask your healthcare provider to get that advice. So looking at my YouTube screen here, looks like 3 years ago I posted a video called "Is the GI map test validated?" And 10 days ago somebody posted a question on there, the one and only question on there. I had a whopping 36 views on that video, but I'm glad it stood this test of time, and someone watched it 3 years later. So the question goes like this. It says, "Thanks for this, really useful. I use the GI map in my work as a nutritional therapist. However, I'm of the same opinion as you shared in this video. Which type of stool testing or which lab do you recommend? Thanks in advance." So thank you for the question. So just for a little bit of background, and I don't remember exactly what I said in this video, but my opinion on the GI map test is the same now as it was 3 years ago. And I mean, I have nothing against the GI map test. If clinicians want to use it, patients want to order it, all the power to you. I've ordered it for a few patients that have requested that I order it, and I'm happy to do that. I just think that what I think I probably said in the video is that we just have to be, I think, aware as clinicians and consumers. What is the test able to test for, and what do the results definitively mean? So, anyways, I won't get into that now because apparently I hashed it all out a few years ago. But anyways, feel free to cross-reference that video. But I do think there's some usefulness to the test. But I think we have to just be careful with our result interpretation. So the question at hand today is, which test do I recommend? Which stool test do I recommend? So bearing in mind that I have no financial affiliations with any labs, the way that we do lab testing in our office is, folks just pay for the labs directly themselves, so we don't make any money from the labs that we run, and we just prefer it that way. I know there's some labs out there where there is cost savings if it's affiliated with a clinic and all of that, and just whatever clinicians want to do, all good, different scenarios out there. But just to say, it's not like I have any financial investment in this lab. It's like, oh, don't use this lab because I somehow benefit from this lab. So anyways, no financial interest in what I'm about to say. So the lab that we use for stool testing, or that I use for stool testing, and pretty much all of us here at my clinic use for stool testing, is Doctor's Data. I really like Doctor's Data. They've been around for a long time, based out of good old, somewhere in Illinois. I can't remember exactly where. Somewhere, I don't know if it's Chicago. It's the only city I really know in Illinois, to be honest. My American geography is not wonderful, being a Canadian. But in any event, they're a really great lab, and I just really they offer a lot of good test assays, and their price point is just really good. Like, there's other great labs out there too. Like I won't name any, as I feel like I'm already throwing other labs under the bus here a little bit, but there's other great labs out there too. But just when you compare the price point, it's like, oh, you're really offering the same test, and it's 25%, 50%, sometimes 200% more expensive. Doctor's Data just has really good prices, so I really like them, and that's why I've used them for many years and will continue to use them for years to come. So when it comes to stool testing, there's a few different tests that I run. The most common ones are the bacteriology profile of theirs, which is basically a stool culture that tells us about probiotic levels, as well as any commensal or dysbiotic bacteria. There's a step up from that, which is the microbiology profile, which is the exact same test, but they also test for yeast, and I really like that test because they test for both, they do a yeast culture and they test for microscopic yeast. So sometimes the yeast sample just does not survive on its way to the lab, and so we don't culture it any yeast, but we see lots of dead microscopic yeast on the stool results, and so that's a really, I think, helpful little add-on. And then another test that they run that we do all the time is the comprehensive stool analysis, which tests for everything that I just mentioned, but also tests for what they call a stool chemistry profile, which includes things like the fecal elastase level, which in recent years has been a really useful test, and something I think is really important for folks with chronic digestive issues, because it rules in or rules out whether they have some degree of exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI for short. If you're not sure what that is and you're interested to learn more, I have posted at least 1 or 2 videos about that. So if you keyword search that, say on my YouTube channel, you should be able to find that. And it also tests for short-chain fatty acid levels like butyrate. It tests the secretory IgA levels, so it tells us about immune system function in the gut. It tests for inflammatory markers, specifically lysozyme, lactoferrin, and fecal calprotectin. It also tests for whether there's any fat staining like steatorrhea in the stool, and those are the most useful metrics there. It tells like stool pH as well, which is, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how clinically relevant that is, to be honest. So that's the comprehensive stool analysis. So those are the most common tests that we run. They do have another test that, when folks want to test for parasites, they do have this wonderful test. It's called the CPP test, which is culture PCR and, something else. Culture PCR and parasitology, maybe. Anyways, I don't remember what the last P stands for, but basically it's a 3-day stool collection. They test for probiotic levels, yeast, and parasites. Now, I think it's actually the best parasite test to run, in my opinion. However, even though I think it's the best test to run, there's still glaring false negatives when it comes to parasite testing. So we don't really run it very often because anyways, I've had other videos that I posted about this. I won't get into the details of it here, but just there's quite a high false negative rates, which is nothing against doctors' data or any other lab that runs parasite testing. It's just parasites can be really hard to pick up on stool testing per the research literature. So we, if we want to test for parasites, it's a good option. It's quite a cost-effective option, but we don't really add it on all that often, because when patients hear about the sort of high rates of false negatives, they're like, oh, why would I spend my money on that extra add-on test? But sometimes they still do, and sometimes we do find parasites on there, but not very often. Yeah, so those are the most common stool tests I run. I guess the one thing that I will just mention here, just to kind of like even the playing field a little bit more, and I don't, again, I think Doctors Data is a great lab, but just to say they do offer another test. If memory serves, I believe it's called the GI 360 test. The GI 360 test, if memory serves, it really encompasses everything from the comprehensive stool analysis, so like the bacteria, yeast, and probiotics, and the stool chemistry. But then they also do PCR testing, which is very, very similar to the panel that they run for that the GI-MAP folks run. And they do use different testing assays. I don't remember the exact names of them, but there's at least one study out there kind of looking at the difference between the GI-MAP testing method and the method that Doctors Data uses. If memory serves, that study, I believe, was there was some financial interest there on the part of Doctors Data, if memory serves. One of the authors of the study was affiliated with them in some way, shape, or form. So just to say that, just as a point of interest, I suppose. But I just mention that because, as much as I said in the other video on the GI-MAP test, that I think we have to be really careful when we're interpreting the results of PCR testing, when it's looking at, say, bacteria and probiotics and yeast and things like that in stool samples. Doctors Data and other companies, they do PCR testing of these microbes too. And so it's not like, oh, it's just GI-MAP that's doing this test, and that maybe has questionable clinical relevance. So just to say, Doctors Data does the same type of testing, and a lot of labs do, and I think I assume that it's, I don't know, I guess, well, it doesn't really matter why I assume that they do. Well, okay, I'll say it anyways. Why not? I'm already on a roll here. I assume that it's in part because, there's just that consumer demand for that. By golly, GI-MAP testing, it's very, very popular testing. So I'm assuming it's partially due to consumer demand. And then I do think that there is clinical utility to, running PCR testing for microbes in stool samples. Just again, we have to be really careful with interpreting that information because it can lead to, so many cases of folks being, just unnecessarily treated for things like, say, H. pylori, because, a GI-MAP test said that H. pylori was there, and it was not picking up an actual active H. pylori infection that was actually causing a problem for people. So, we just have to be, I think, again, mindful with interpreting those results. So anyways, I will leave it there for now. Thank you again for the question. If anybody has any questions or comments on this topic or anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will leave it there for now.